Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 128 at scavengerlife.com.
And for those of you who know our voices but don't know what Scavenger Life is, we are the eBay Scavengers, but we have recently changed our name because eBay asked us to not use eBay in our title because we don't own that name. So we stopped at using it, and now we're Scavenger Life.
Scavenger Life. And actually, if you go to ebayscavengers.com, our old URL, you can see the whole explanation there.
Yeah. But our new place is scavengerlife.com.
So here we are, talking about what's going on in our store this week.
So we just came back from a 3-week trip, and we had 90 things to pack. Or
yes.
You had 90 things to pack.
Yes, 90 things to pack. It took me 2 days straight. Which isn't that bad. I actually thought it would take longer.
There was one day, that first day, I think you did a good 8 hours, just consistent.
God.
You were just rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I really did it. And what I tried to do is I tried to go chronologically because the people waiting the longest, I really wanted them to get that tracking number emailed to them. So I tried my best to just do that first.
So the big question people have is there any blowback from a shipping 90 items so fast?
Right.
And this is the blowback. We had 4 cases opened against us for items not received.
Right.
And we got 1 negative feedback. The guy that got it just gave us negative feedback and said it took a long time to get here.
Now, the good thing is the 3 other cases open against us with item not received, as soon as I either uploaded tracking or the person got it 2 days later, they closed the case. So it wasn't a big deal. Actually, even the person that left negative feedback closed the case, but still left us negative feedback. So that stuff just happens when you have 90 things, that have been waiting for 3 weeks almost.
Right. So, we've done this about 3 or 4 times now where we've been away from 2 weeks to 6 weeks at a time, and we keep our store open. We contact people as soon as they buy. We let them know. There's a big banner on our store that tells people, but yet, no matter what, there's always a handful of people who either don't listen, don't remember, don't care.
Yeah.
They're just like, I want it. And so, that's just, it definitely gets dinged on our defects rating. And, we sometimes, unfortunately, got this negative feedback, but that's just the way
that's
it
just
is.
a risk. I mean, right. I think that's what we really have to think about, because I think this time I started getting really bummed about it, but I think it's just one of those things where you have to weigh the good and the bad. Like, the good is we still make a living and we're still selling, and a huge majority of our customers are fine with it.
Right. Like, we just feel like it would have been silly to close our store for 3 weeks, and we kept it open and we made between $5,000 and $6,000, and that's almost everyone was happy. I mean, even the guy that said it gave us bad feedback and said it took a long time, he was not unhappy with his items.
Yeah, it wasn't the item. That's a good point.
And it's unfortunate. Ryan did call eBay, tried to get them to take it off because he was told. And all they said was, and we learned something, if we go on vacation and want to keep our store open, we should change the shipping time.
Yeah, it's the handling time. So that was one of the issues that we saw on our listings, and actually I think we canceled 3 or 4 transactions because people said, well, I didn't see the banner, that's fine, but your shipping time said it would be here this week. And so we were thinking, yeah, how do we change that? Well, you change your handling time on all your listings.
Right, yeah, it's too bad that eBay's vacation settings don't hook into the handling time. So if you say, I'm going to be back the 21st, your handling time doesn't automatically go to that.
Exactly.
So, fair enough. That hasn't ever been a problem in the past. But, like everything, it's all a big experiment. We've learned. We're going to be out of town for the whole month of September, and we'll just do that.
Yeah,
we'll
change our handling time.
Editor, right?
Yeah, it's the bulk edit. So it's kind of a bummer because we do have so many items. We have 3,500 items. So I think the bulk editor, if anyone's used it before, you can only bulk edit, I think 500 items at a time. So it's not that bad, but, it is a process of, changing all your listings.
And just change it to 3 weeks or a month. Or,
or whatever it lets you do.
Else, and we'll see if that, see what that does.
So actually, eBay said that they would have sided with me if I had changed my handling time. If I had given that information to the sellers, to the buyers up front. So that's a big lesson learned, obviously.
And we're all about it's making its mistakes and a learning.
Yep.
So let's do the numbers for It's This Week, the numbers that I love to do. We sold 33 items. We made about $1,400. Our big item was about $500. So almost one item was almost a third of what we made this week, which is why I love putting out these high dollar items. It was in an original piece of artwork that someone just bought outright. Yeah,
and I had a make offer on it, as I do with a lot of high priced items, but they paid the full price. They wanted it. They wanted it now, and those are the customers I love for artwork, that's for sure.
And we were super happy to do that.
Yeah.
And so it has been a slow week and a slow month for us. I mean, I know everyone's talking about that. I noticed that people are coming to our blog from Google searches, like, why is eBay so slow? Because we do talk about it on the podcast. So, and that's just the way it is. It's
the summertime.
Summertime. It's June. People are out and about.
Yeah. I mean, we ran into some guy who had a yard sale at it's this car repair place where they sell used cars, and they also have yard sales on the outside, on the weekends. And we were just talking to him, and he's like, business is so slow in the summer. And, it's not just retailers. It's like everybody. It was like
him selling cars. It was him fixing cars.
Right.
I mean, it's...
So it's just, things slow down. People go on vacation. They go away.
And actually, our next podcast is going to be about that, about what to do when times are slow.
Right.
But I just wanted to bring that up about our numbers, and we talked about being away. I mean, this is a good example of why we love having a large inventory, and why we're big proponents of having as many items as you're possibly able to sanely store, because we have done no listing this month, except for a couple of days ago, you started to list again. But basically, we haven't listed at all this month.
For about 4 weeks. Right. We didn't list, but we still made a living this month.
We didn't take pictures. All we did was we answered messages on our phone.
Right.
That was it. So when someone would send a message or an offer, we would immediately communicate with that person, take offers, do deals. And that's what our business was.
Right. It's kind of shifting things where, we're used to, actually, as Wendy said last week, she said, it's kind of like you get into this funk where you're in a cave just listing on eBay. And, we weren't doing that for the whole month because we were traveling, but we were still making a very, very decent living. So that's good. That's why we like to have, 3,000 items.
And that's why, it's kind of like it's grasshopper and the ant. We like being the ants where, we put in the work. We try to, bulk up our inventory. And then when, there are months when we don't want to work or when we are doing other things, our business can still run.
Yeah. So that's
good.
Proof that it does work.
So we did sell, we had talked about it, a nice chair.
Yes. Yes, we sold a Danish modern, desk chair. We talked about this,
and we've been we've been putting up a lot of furniture. And I guess one issue I'm having is storing it. We have a storage space, and I kind of put the furniture in there, and I put some boxes on top of this chair. It had like a vinyl seat, and we take it out, and there are these huge dent
marks, right?
Yeah.
So the guy is it's not the guy who bought it, but the shipper guy with the truck is gonna pick it up the next morning at 10 a.m. This is 7 o'clock the night before, and we're looking at this chair and we're like, oh, that was a mistake. And you know what? I was trying so hard to just be because usually that stuff would get me really mad, like really freaked out and mad.
Mad at me.
Mad at you because you like put, whatever, you put boxes. Now, these boxes were like big boxes of artwork that were leaned to the side, so it was the edge on there. So it was like these deep dents in the seat.
But I was very proud that both of us were calm.
Yes.
Because we just had to first see, I had a feeling we could fix it.
Right. And so my theory was this. Because I had been doing a lot of like shirt steaming and ironing, and I do that a lot when we're doing clothing, I just thought, vinyl, this is fabric backed vinyl. So usually with things like polyester or vinyl, things like that, you can iron or steam that stuff when it gets wrinkled or messed up like that. So I just got my iron out. I put a towel over it so it wouldn't like directly touch the vinyl, and I put it on a low setting, kind of a medium low setting for polyester, and then I just ironed it. It took me maybe 10 minutes to just kind of like gently iron it, and then in 10 minutes I left it alone and it was like brand new.
And one other part to the story is, why selling online is so amazing these days is we also Googled it and looked on a YouTube, and there were videos on a YouTube where people show you how to do it. And that's, if you're starting to run a business, that's really the best way. If you have a question, you just Google it.
Right.
Or put it into a YouTube. It's also Google, and people will show you. And it's just amazing the things we've learned online where people have taken the time to make videos showing you how to do something. Yeah,
that's really what made me feel better is people weren't saying you can iron a vinyl chair, but they were saying, I have this like vinyl decal that came in the mail all wrinkled and I'm going to put a heat gun on it. So I was like, if someone can put a paint stripper gun on it, I think I can take a light iron and fix it. And I did. So I was so relieved when that happened. I was like, oh, thank God.
I was too. And then the guy came and picked it up and took it to the guy that bought it, and he gave us good feedback the next day. And so another success in our furniture adventure.
Yeah, and so that guy who picked it up was from uship.com.
Yep.
So that was a successful kind of like customer hooking up with a shipper guy, and we hooked up with the shipper guy, and we didn't have to pay anything. Yep. So it was all the customers doing. So that was the first successful like customer shipper us interaction. So that was good. So on our way home from New York the other day, we were on the Amtrak train, and I was reading some other eBay sellers blogs. I was reading Nancy's blog. It's called Third Hand Shop. And she had this blog post about this weird marketing campaign by Velveeta where she got a return of a Revereware pan, and it had this like Velveeta pasta mix with an apron and this like bizarre thing about how you can like cook this like skillet mix. It's basically like Hamburger Helper in your skillet. So it was this weird thing by Kraft where they bought a skillet from you and they returned it with their like food product to be kind of a marketing campaign. So the weird thing is I had read that on the way home, and then we get home and we look in the mail and Jay's like, what is this return? I don't remember what this return was. So we open it up and it's the exact same thing. It was like this skillet that I had sold them in February with like this Velveeta pasta in it. So I thought it was really funny that I just read that blog post, an hour before. And
I guess it kind of worked because we're talking about it.
I know, and it's so bad because I didn't want to talk about it and like promote their like Velveeta cheese.
But it's cool for us because they bought it and paid for it, and then they sent it back to us and don't want a refund, so we'll just resell it.
I just relisted it, so that is kind of a funny thing.
I guess it's one of those, underground marketing things that they're trying to do.
It's kind of smart, but, I don't eat that kind of food, so I'll probably just give it away.
So we come home on the weekend, and then just a couple days after we pack everything, we go to this eBay in person.
Yeah.
And it's in Baltimore. It's about 3 hours from where we live, so we actually rented a hotel. It was kind of an ordeal. It was basically 2 days out of our life.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of time.
And it's mainly just because, we do this full time, and we wanted to actually go and meet eBay employees and ask them a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
All the things that people ask us, we have those same questions too, and we want to sit them down in front of a computer and ask them. So we go there, and it's basically in a hotel ballroom. There's maybe, what do you think, 70 people there?
Yeah, max 70 people.
It was 2 guys. It was a Griff and one other guy.
I think the other guy's name was Jim.
Yeah. Very friendly. I like Griff. He's a funny guy. But he basically just gave an hour-long kind of beginner slideshow.
Yeah, and the sad thing was, at the beginning of his slideshow, he literally said, "Oh, I took out everything about the new defect rating. Every slide about that I took out." And I'm sitting there thinking, that's pretty much the whole reason I came here, was to ask about the defect rating.
It was just about taking good pictures, writing clear descriptions, being nice to customers, just all the basic stuff. And I guess it's a little bit of a quandary for him because, in that room of 70 people, there were definitely people there who were very new to eBay, who just were coming because they were very excited. But then there was a whole group of people like us who had full-time businesses. Right. They ran it out of brick and mortar stores. Yep. I mean, they were for
serious,
real.
Yeah.
And so you could just tell, I don't know if they're trying to work on this format, but they need to either split it up into its groups or
I felt like that was the solution, there was very specifically 2 groups there.
But, the big positive thing was we met a listener there.
Yeah, we met Larry.
Yep, and he lives close by, and he sells a vintage, military books.
Yeah, it was actually, that pretty much made the whole night, because we walked in and he immediately stood up and was like, "Jay and Ryan." And we were like, cool, a friend,
Super smart, seemed like a good business person.
Yes.
Sells his books on eBay and also in person too, at a store. At a store.
Yeah.
And we had a great time talking to him and hearing about how he does his business, because he doesn't want to touch any of the kind of stuff that we sell. He's got his own thing going. It works for him, and it's good to hear that. I think it's important if you're going to run a business that you just need to be confident about what you're going
sell. Yeah.
to sell. He knows it's what he likes and what works for him. But
and it's always nice to just kind of talk about different techniques and talk about, he runs a brick and mortar store and he goes to trade shows and he does eBay. So that's a cool perspective to be able to talk about, the different venues he has.
And like I said, I think a Griff is a good guy. This is the guy from eBay.
eBay Radio. You guys know Griff.
He was a 5th employee of eBay.
Employee number 6.
And he helps run their customer service. Yeah. He's a good guy. But, mainly because most of the night was then him answering its questions. People got up to a mic.
Right.
And you had questions of just very beginners to people who were very experienced. And so it was all over the place. And he did a good job answering. There was, one guy who came up and was kind of ranting about why eBay asks him for his social security number because he doesn't want to give that out. And kind of the undertone is he doesn't want people spying on him. And Griff did a really good job just kind of calming the guy down and making a joke of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's why Griff is good like that, because he has dealt with those people probably from the beginning. So he knows how to calm people down.
And we joke about those people because they're the ones that are all in those eBay community forums where everything's super negative, everything, eBay's after them.
Yeah.
Their business is a disaster because of eBay. They have it's responsibility in anything. So it's interesting seeing those people in real life. And now I know why Griff is kind of a goofball, because I guess he has to be lighthearted to kind of handle the people who just are very angry about things,
Right. And he's very good at that. Although I do wish for the eBay in-person events that they would have kind of a beginner section and an advanced, because I felt like there wasn't enough time for us to really ask questions about the defect rating, you know?
Yeah. I mean, only at the very end, you know, there's only 2 people from eBay there.
Right.
And then afterwards, they have like a nice spread of food. It was very nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And then everyone kind of like stampedes to talk to the 2 eBay guys.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of hung out for over an hour or more and waited till everyone started kind of peeling off. And finally, we got this guy, John.
Or Jim.
I don't know his name. But we got him with our computer and sat him down and was asking him things. And he was very nice, and he helped us and answered a lot of our questions. But I think with eBay, it's so kooky that he was even like, yeah, I don't know the answer. I'll get back to you. I mean, that kind of thing. So that's why we went, and I guess we got that done. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I missed the conference. It was called eBay on Location that we went to in like 2 years ago, I think. And that was awesome because there were eBay, you know, employees all over the place. Right. So you could just like talk to someone.
Yeah,
you know?
So I would not go to one of these ever again.
Oh my God.
You know, it's just a lot of driving for not a lot of... But... Okay, so one of the things we talked about was the defect is rating.
Right.
Because we're getting a little confused by the defect is rating and how they're dinging us. And so one thing became clear, and which is why we went to that event, was if someone opens a case against you, that case, that ding will never go away on your defect is rating.
Right. So the thing about that, which we found crazy, was, okay, someone says like item not received. But if you upload tracking and the person's happy and they close the case, doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, if they don't escalate it or anything, doesn't matter. Right. They had to open a case.
Right. So it's no longer, it only counts against you if the case is if goes against you, you know, if you know the buyer escalates it and eBay says that you've done something wrong. In the old days, that's what counted against you. Now, them just opening a case period puts a ding against your defect rating. And
now part of that issue that I find is, and they even mentioned this when they were talking at the eBay in person thing, is after you've purchase an item and you're trying to contact a seller, if you're doing it a certain way, it automatically kind of opens a case.
Right, like a buyer often doesn't know that they're opening up a case against you. They're just asking a question like, where's my item? Or, you know, please can you check and make sure you send it to X address? Just very innocent questions. But on their end, it just looks like no big deal. But on your end, it's an open case. And according to eBay, that's now a ding on your defect
rating. So that's a little bit weird contradiction, in my opinion.
So it kind of comes back to when we were talking to Mikey and Wendy last time. Is like, I mean, for us, like, we're doing the best we can.
Right.
I mean, unless we just start giving out free shipping and I don't know, just like giving stuff away for free right and left. I don't know.
What else can we do?
I don't know what we can do better, you know?
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate.
The other thing too about the defect rating is, you know, there are minimum, you know, requirements for sellers to be top rated. And then there's minimum requirements for sellers to even be on eBay. I mean, that's what the defect rating is rating, you know, is whether you're going to be top rated or whether you're going to stay on eBay. So for us, it's kind of like, well, if we can't be top rated, you can't, you know, there's nothing you can do about that, but we can still be on eBay. But if it gets really bad, will they kick you off eBay?
Yeah, but I don't think that's my problem because, I mean, they've always had that. I mean, you know.
That's true.
If you don't meet a certain standards, I mean,
they'll kick you off.
eBay will always kick you off. I just think they're trying to make it even more like where you can actually look at all its numbers. I guess I do appreciate that because you can go onto your its performance page and they'll actually break down which items a defect comes from.
Right.
So you at least know who's dinging you, you know.
Right.
I just, again, my issue is just, you know, sometimes there has to be interaction with a buyer. You know, not every sale goes perfectly.
Right.
Not that it goes badly, but just people have it's questions. And so if someone buys something from you and questions are asked, I feel in eBay's considering that a problem.
Right.
And that's not good because it just happens,
It's just, especially with one-of-a-kind items, people ask questions. The other thing about it, too, is if you haven't sold 400 items in 3 months, those numbers don't get flushed out every 3 months. So with the old, star DSRs, they would just be measuring the last 3 months. Now, if it's less than 400 items sold in 3 months, you are judged on a 12-month period.
Right.
So that's a new part of it as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually new. I think
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's new to me.
I think that's new to us because we actually haven't sold 400 items in the past 3 months,
which is rare for us.
Kind of rare for us, which means that it has been a little bit slow. Although our numbers are the money we've made has been the same, just because we've been having some higher dollar items.
Yeah, so that changes things.
I worry that maybe we're confusing you more than we're helping with this defect iterating, but we just wanted to kind of share our current kind of understanding of how it works, and ultimately keep listening. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think later on we could probably do a whole podcast about it once we understand it more, but overall I feel like it's not something to worry about, and as long as you're listing and treating your customers right, you're going to be fine. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So Ryan will laugh at this, but I definitely had a feeling this week that we have to slow down on buying stuff.
I will laugh at that. Although we did buy some cool stuff this week.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because we were gone and we were just buying stuff, and we mailed home 8 big boxes and we unpacked it, and we definitely have the piles right now.
Yeah. Mountains.
I have organized my piles and I'm starting to work on it, hats, shoes.
Yeah.
It's miscellaneous kitchen stuff. I mean, I have my piles and I'm going to work through it. And that's what I'm doing during this slow time. I think if you're selling on eBay full time, this feeling is probably a familiar one. And that's just when you're just so excited about buying stuff. And then you just realize, you got to do something about it.
I mean, we always say this, and we say this to people when we meet them and they agree. It's so easy to buy. Because that's the most fun thing. It's treasure hunting. And
actually, that feeling was so strong, we actually skipped this auction that we had planned to go to.
Oh my God.
We were like, I don't need to go.
I don't think I've ever had Jay do that, where we had planned to go to an auction after the eBay in-person thing because we were in Maryland and that's where the auction was. And I think we were just so, rearing to get home to just, I got to start listing, that we skipped the auction, which is very rare for us. But I think it's good to remember that you need to complete the cycle, and that is what keeps you selling.
Yeah, I think that's what has made us successful in our business, is that we always remember that it's a cycle. The buying part is definitely totally fun. It's fun coming home and looking at it and then researching it and learning about it.
All that stuff.
And getting excited about how much it might sell for. It's not always exciting, but then we have to actually photograph it and list it. You know? Because if not,
you don't make any money.
There's no point in doing this. And then the excitement is completed when it gets sold and is shipped to a person.
Exactly. And now I will kind of make fun of myself in a way, because when Wendy said that, sitting in a cave and listing on eBay, I was like, this week, I was totally zen about that. I was like, I actually just want to sit in my, cave and list.
I think it's, for us, it's also a cycle. We like to put our heads down just like the ants, and we like to work and we do our work.
Right.
And then we pull our head up and we leave the home and we
travel.
Go travel.
Yeah.
We have adventures, and then we come back. Because I definitely had that feeling this week when I had my piles, I organized everything, and I started taking pictures. It was very enjoyable.
Yes.
I loved it. It was just, because it's my process.
Right.
I know I'm being productive. We're making money from this, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I think it's tough sometimes when it's slow, because you're like, oh, I'm doing this for nothing. But, some of the stuff I listed and actually a couple things that I put on cheaper prices sold like right away. So even though it has been slow, we have been selling, stuff that we've been listing. So,
I mean, it's funny. It's this week I had an email from a listener from California, Anna, who happened to be in our area driving through. It's with her kids, and she just dropped us an email, asked if she could take us out to lunch, and we met her and had lunch.
So we've met more listeners this week than we've ever.
Yeah, it was cool. We were a little bit like, we wasn't sure what we could offer her, but I think she just wanted to meet and talk. And we talked about her business, our business, and just the fun of scavenging, and her kids were great. So
yeah, so that was fun. That was cool.
But then what's funny is right after that, we had not planned to really do anything. We just planned to just drive through town to go somewhere, and we found a yard sale,
Yeah.
And found some incredible stuff.
Yeah, it was so funny because that day we were running errands and meeting Anna in town, and we just ran across all these yard sales and sales at thrift stores, and we loaded up our truck. And
people were just doing deals. I got
cheap, so cheap.
I got a flare gun. Ryan got some awesome old purses.
They were all, people were just dollar, whatever, dollar.
I mean, and then we realized it was Friday and it was a yard sale day, so we kept driving around and we spent $45.
Yeah.
And we filled the back of our truck full of stuff.
Yeah.
Trash bags full of cool goodies.
Yeah, we had so much stuff. Actually, it's hilarious that we're saying this because we're we didn't go to the auction because we were buying too much. But how can you go wrong with $45?
We couldn't help it. It was just one of those things. I mean, we got a Vitamix, a juicer.
Oh yeah, we got a Vitamix. Okay, you guys know Vitamixes. Go look them up right now. They sell for hundreds of dollars. We found just a base. The base will sell for $100. We bought it for $1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I love that. I love finds like that. It just looks like junk because there's no jar, top to it.
Right.
But we know.
And, I just don't understand, when people say, well, how do I find stuff? I don't really know the answer. I just find, it's kind of you just have to be out there and it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
People, you kind of get attracted to the yard sales or the estate sales, and just some of them are really stupid and dumb and expensive and
have junk,
a waste of time.
Junk.
And then you'll just have a day like we had the other day where we just for $45 filled the back of our truck, and really quality items,
expensive stuff. I'm looking at some of it right now.
I'm very excited.
But I think part of it too for people who are what should I buy? I mean, the beginning is you buy the things that are interesting to you that you would buy for yourself. I mean, we started out with vintage clothes because those are the kind of clothes we wear. But then as time goes by, you start seeing housewares and weird, luggage and, weird military stuff. Sure, at first you're I don't know what this is. But the first time you sell something, you're always going to buy that. And that's it. It's just a learning process. It just takes time. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's my rant.
So we have a big trip. Our next one is in September.
Yes.
And we're going to be gone for basically the entire month of September.
Yeah.
So it's really, these are good things for us because it means we have chunks of time.
Yeah.
So between now and September, head down, listing, photographing,
shipping.
Very exciting.
Yes.
And then I always look forward to the winter time because it's for us, it gets cold here. And I love the winter time because there's nothing to do but list.
Yes.
There's no yard sales.
Yes.
There's no flea markets.
You go through your piles because we have piles that never end.
Right.
So
and
that's easy.
And the holiday season will be during that time, and that's when we make a lot of money. And it's good.
Yep.
We talked about on our trip that we were mailing stuff home. It's using
FedEx Home, or it's otherwise known as FedEx Ground.
And we made a mistake. We were telling you that it was costing us
50 cents a pound.
And we made a mistake. It was actually $1 a pound.
Now, I take full responsibility for this mistake. Now, some of you who have done USPS shipping through either Click and Ship, or you can do PayPal Ship Now, I think it's called, where if you have a PayPal account, you can ship medium mail, first class, parcel post. And what you do is, if you're shipping to yourself and you want your return address to be your own address because you're staying at a hotel or whatever, you can tell USPS to ship from a certain zip code so that you get charged the correct amount for the zip code. So you're not shipping to yourself from your own zip code, you're from somewhere else. Now, I thought I was doing that on FedEx, and apparently I wasn't doing that.
Right, so they thought we were shipping to ourselves,
right,
from ourselves.
The quote I was getting for the 50 cents a pound made it look like I was shipping in my own zip code. So I was like, this is so cheap. Well, obviously, because it's the same town. But it wasn't that cheap. It was twice as much. But the good thing is, so I know how to fix that now, which is to get a quote from the zip code I'm shipping from, but I can still use my, return address. That's fine. But they're going to charge me, 7 days later, which is what they do, as opposed to USPS where you pay up front. But the good thing is, it's still cheaper than parcel post. How
much cheaper?
Okay, so parcel post is about $1.45 a pound, and FedEx Home is $1 a pound from Austin, Texas to where we live. Might be different for California to New York,
but it's still cheaper because
it's still cheaper. It's still cheaper.
So it's good.
So the good thing was we didn't lose money. But we spent more than I thought we were spending. That's just something to take into consideration. My mistake.
Yeah, we like to talk about mistakes.
Yes, so I have learned now how to do it correctly. I even called FedEx to be like, what the hell did I do wrong? And they told me. I felt really dumb, but now I know.
It's good.
Just a mistake.
Ryan over at the blog online sellingexperiment.com, he just put up a post where he talks about how he took a road trip. It's with a buddy, and they, they're into Amazon FBA, so all the retail arbitrage.
Yeah.
And I guess they had bought out all the stuff in their stores in their area, so they rented a van and went to, I guess, another state.
Yeah.
And went to Toys R Us and other kind of stores and bought out all the stuff that they like to buy in those stores, bring it back to a hotel room. They would process it for the FBA, pack it into boxes, and then drop it off at the, I guess...
I think it's UPS.
Yeah, a UPS store. And he is good. I like him because he's very open about his numbers and talks about how much he spent and how much shipping costs. But, it's kind of cool.
I liked that story because, number one, it was a good length blog post. Like, he didn't go into, like, every single tiny detail of their road trip. Like, he was just like, this is what we did. This is how we did it. These were the numbers. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. But the awesome thing about them is, like you said, with FBA, kind of like what we were doing, too, in a different way, they just ship it off to FBA. It doesn't matter where they are. Right. They're in a hotel room. They have their printer.
Yep.
They bought boxes at Home Depot, and they ship the inventory that they bought in Wisconsin or wherever, and they come home with no inventory because it's done for them.
And then Amazon. And I mean, I guess that trip sounded kind of boring in the sense like they just went to like stores, bought, and then went home. Yeah. But it would be interesting to use that a model if you're going on a camping trip somewhere or you're touring a part of the country. You could just be touring and enjoying it yourself while at the same time stopping at these stores and buying stuff, sending it to Amazon and letting Amazon sell. And,
if you're into the Amazon thing, that's cool because instead of traveling and doing eBay and you have to have your inventory with you, you're sending it to Amazon, and you can process it, and then you walk away with nothing in your trunk. That's cool.
Sounds like magic.
It is. It sounds like magic. So that was a cool post. I'll link to that on the blog.
And something else we'll link to on the blog we thought is interesting is on NPR. There was a story about people who sell old clothes.
Like
and
us.
What this woman was talking about was she likes to call it,
antique clothing, right?
Antique, it's clothing. And I guess it's just interesting for those of you who sell vintage clothes especially, getting into the mindset of people that actually will pay for this stuff. She lived in, it's New York, and she was finding these like really cool old clothes and then she would sell it to Japanese people mainly. It's just interesting because I think that's what we always try and share with people is that when we're going out and scavenging, we're trying to get into the minds of the collectors and the people that see the junk. When you see in the back of some redneck's truck some old jacket, it looks like a piece of junk to him, but if you get into the mindset of someone else, that person sees it as a treasure. And she actually had an example where she found an old a prisoner's uniform from, I guess, the
Missouri.
30s.
Yeah, someone in Joplin, Missouri from the 30s. And actually, this is the crazy part about it. The prisoner had actually been shot and killed, and you could see the bullet holes.
Right.
So she was selling that for $4,500.
Yeah, so I don't think she sold it yet, but that's a good example of I could totally see finding that at one of our flea markets.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Something like that. So it's interesting because, you would see that in the window of a store in New York, and you'd be like, who the hell is going to buy that? Some dude in Japan thinks it's cool.
And they were just talking about because these Japanese buyers have a vision of Americana that we don't share. They don't really understand maybe all the history of it, but they have an emotional feeling that they put towards these clothes. And, they're willing to pay for that. And that's really what sellers like us, why we do this, is because you're helping connect people to an emotion that they're trying to have.
Right. And so just a real quick note about that was they were saying that American people are really into this, these old farm workers kimonos from Japan called Boro, Boro. And what the farm workers used to do is they would patch up their kimonos with this indigo fabric that looks like denim so many times that it was like beyond the original piece. Like you were only looking at patches. And so I was like, that's weird. I've never even heard of that. So I looked it up on eBay. I typed in Boro, and you'll see some of those Boro kimonos sell for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So if you ever find anything like that.
And so it's funny. It's the same way. The story was just saying that Japanese people think the clothing's kind of like junk, trashy and junky, but these Americans have a feeling about it that that they're willing to pay for.
So I'll link to that as well. Okay, so this week's questions.
Okay, so it's David asks, do you use the eBay
traffic reports?
And I guess he means like eBay has these kind of spreadsheets that you can download that tell you,
like analytics, basically, of like who's linking to you and whatever.
So I love its numbers. I love to see what's actually happening because, that's where its reality is.
Right.
And unfortunately, I've kind of tried to dig into eBay's, all of these spreadsheets. I don't find them helpful at all.
Oh, they're horrible.
I don't even know if I can trust them, to be honest with you.
You mean trust the information?
Well, some of it just feels old or dated.
It's dated. Well,
like it's
that's
a month
thing.
behind.
Well,
I don't know.
The last time I looked at eBay traffic reports was years ago because it was so poorly laid out. Like, basically, if anyone's like a website nerd, if you've used Google Analytics, you want Google Analytics type of numbers and graphs.
It's very dynamic. It's fast. With eBay, it's like you have to click a button. It has to like open up some other kind of like app on their site. It takes a while to download.
And then the numbers are like weeks off, a month off. So you're like, okay, why did I get, so many questions about this one item? Did a blog link to me? It barely gives you that information.
Yes.
So that's our opinion on that.
Right. So, I mean, if anyone else enjoys them and can maybe point us to a link where I can find ones that seem helpful, I'd love to hear that. But as of now, I mean,
if there's a third-party app offered on eBay that has better analytics, I would love to have that. The other thing, too, is, this is what Jay always says, it's amazing that eBay is a billion-dollar company and they don't have, like, proper analytics for sellers.
I mean, it still feels like they're stuck in, like, 1999. And actually, that's one of the things we asked the guy at the eBay in person was, I mean, I've been asking this for a long time. eBay should tell me if someone buys an item, if they've bought something from me before.
For God's sake.
Like if they're trying to encourage sellers to get people to buy again from you, they know that info and they should just tell me, like a little pop-up or...
And they even said, this was funny, he was like, oh, well, do you use GoDaddy bookkeeping for your... bookkeeping? We're like, yeah, we do. And they'll tell you if it's a repeat customer. But that's like a week later, and they're only going by their first and last name. So if, like, this happened, someone named David Smith bought this thing. So I was like, oh, let me see what they bought. Oh, it's 2 different David Smiths. It's not the username, So
I feel like eBay is leaving a lot on the table by not... providing better info.
Yeah, I agree with that. So.
I don't know. The guy at eBay in person said they're working on things. That's cool.
Yeah, they should be working on things. Okay. Someone named TG asks a really cool question. I was wondering if you have any tips for taking the train when traveling. My husband and I plan to take the train up the coast from Los Angeles to Seattle in August. It's about a 34-hour train ride each way, and we have never done something like this. If you have any travel trips related and unrelated to scavenging, I would love to hear. Number 1, we love taking the train. We love Amtrak.
But you know what? We're also on the East Coast, and the Amtrak is really built for the East Coast. I think it works well because everything is within, like
just a couple hours.
Like 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere on the East Coast. So here are a couple things. The number 1 is if you're going to take like a 34-hour train ride, make sure you pay the extra cost to get a room.
You have to get a room. My sister took a train across the country. Just the cheapest ticket possible is you sitting in coach. You will be in absolute hell if you are just sitting in coach.
Right. And the other thing is, but the days of trains having really good food is over. Now it's like a really crappy snack bar and not good food.
But if you get a room, it comes with actual like hot meals with like, you can order wine and stuff like that. We've never done the rooms, so we don't know the quality of the food.
Because it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's cheaper to fly, actually. But, if you're doing it to enjoy train travel, I can see.
You should do it.
But, I would bring some food anyway.
Yes.
Just because I don't want to count on them, but that sounds cool. We've taken the train in Europe, and we love it, and sleeping and eating is really great. So
make sure if you're on Amtrak, they have Wi-Fi, so be sure to bring your computer, which basically my computer is attached to me at the hip anyway, but you want to be able to do some work, check the internet, all that stuff.
I think that we would take the train more because we don't mind it taking a longer. We just find that the train is just really expensive.
It's expensive.
We only do it on the East Coast because we go on these trips that they do all the time, so we can get good prices.
You can get good prices
on weekends.
I would love to hear after your trip how it went. Yeah. The other cool thing, just real quick, about scavenging on the train is, and we have scavenged, they really aren't like, is that your second check-in bag? Like, they don't care about stuff like that.
They tend to have a feeling of if someone can carry on bags, they can carry them on.
It'll fit.
So we've actually taken 4 huge duffel bags onto these trains.
That we stuff we scavenged to come home.
So they don't care.
They don't care. So that's good. And if you have a room, you can just shove it all in your room. So I would love to hear what that's like when you're done. Please tell us. Okay. Justine asks, what is your policy on insuring breakable items? My policy is you must insure them.
Yeah.
So that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, if something has any chance of breaking, just do insurance. I mean, it's just a couple bucks.
Well, and okay, so if you're shipping at priority, up to $100 priority USPS is free. If you ship using eBay labels. So I insure
free insurance.
Free insurance, yeah. So up to $100. So that's easy. What I've started doing is I started using this app called ShipSaver on eBay. So if it's a breakable item that's over $100, I insure it using ShipSaver. You can just sign up for it in the app section. It's cheaper than USPS, so I use the free USPS and ShipSaver. So that's my policy now.
So Mark asks, what do you think about is using a service is like Octiva to spruce up his listings and templates? Some of them are really nice. I like the idea of the scrolling gallery they offer so people can get interested. Do you think it's a good or bad idea? Yeah, so our thing is this. I think like every new eBay seller, we did check out those like apps that you can put onto your store. There's free ones like, there's like scrolling galleries. There's like maps that you can put on so people can see where your buyers are from. We actually made a mistake once where Ryan accidentally turned that on all of our listings, and there's no way to take it off. So
it's horrible.
So we had this like ugly map thing that would load on every page, and there's no way to get rid of it.
The thing, just a side note, the thing about that map was I thought it was internal data, that they were basically analytics.
Right.
I didn't realize it was going to go on all my listings. It was horrible, and I couldn't get it off.
So, and then, the one, if you're talking about the Octiva, it seems like it's very popular or common where it's like this scrolling widget where things kind of scroll by. I think it's useless, and I think it's ugly. And, I mean, have you ever sat there on a page and watched those things scroll, just like waiting for something to pop up and then you click it? I just don't understand the thinking behind it. I think that there are better ways to, bring out your inventory, by
having good titles.
Yeah, I mean, because the way I buy is that, I do a search. I click on the things that look like it's match what I'm trying to find, and that's it, Well,
and what I do sometimes too is if I like this person's stuff and I think they might have other similar things, I'll click on their store and just browse through their store. I don't need
and what you can do even in like it's your own template, or what you can do in the description is that you can just have some boilerplate links where you can say, if you like this item, check out these items, and you could click to a gallery of other items in your store.
Like basically you're linking to your other categories, like
here's all of it's my shoes. Click here.
Exactly. The other thing to remember about things like those, scrolling galleries and maps and stuff is their flash, which it does not show up on mobile devices.
That's true.
They actually mentioned that at eBay in person. They were
like iPads won't pick it up, or phones.
If they're on their phone, their Android, their iPhone, their iPad, nobody's going to see that.
I really feel like that kind of stuff is kind of like the old eBay.
It's just
like the 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of junky stuff.
That's our opinion. I know we really went into it. Well, you know why? Because we had the Octiva scrolling gallery. We had those crappy maps, and we couldn't wait to get rid of them. Once those things sold, we were like, we're never putting that crap on our template again. So Rihanna says, I was wondering if you can do a video on how to clean leather shoes. That's a very good idea. And then someone named Rex says, what measurements do I take for listing shoes? Those are good questions.
So I'll take it's cleaning. We could make a video, and maybe one day we will.
Yeah, that's a really good video idea.
But I mean, I think because I clean all the shoes, I think it's one of those things where so many sellers just don't take the time just to do a light cleaning of shoes that could make shoes sell for much more.
Dust them.
I do 20 pairs at a time, and I spend about an hour cleaning those 20 shoes. And a lot of it is just a damp towel and wipe them off. That's what most shoes need.
Yeah.
But then with like some shoes, like boots, I will just do a saddle soap, or an oil, and you just polish them. And that's the beauty of these kind of shoes. It's made out of a material that is beautiful, and that lasts. And all it needs is just some oil or some polish,
some conditioning,
and it's
basically
good to go.
Yeah. So.
And then the other thing about its measurements,
Yeah, so the way we measure shoes, like, okay, a pair of boots, it's really hard to get into the insole to measure boots. So what we do is, when you flip a pair of boots over, you can see the stitching. So what you want to do is you want to go from the inside of the stitching, because that's where your toe is going to touch, over down to, I do about 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the heel. And then on the, that's the length. And then the width is like stitching to stitching. Now, if you don't see any obvious stitching, what I do is I subtract 1/4 of an inch approximately on each edge, with the ruler. I just kind of bump it a little bit. Now with, women's shoes like heels, it's really important because a lot of times the heels are high, so it's hard to do that outsole. Usually you can do the insole. You just stick it's not a ruler, it's like a tape measure, like a flexible tape measure, and then you put that in the shoe itself. So that's and then we always measure the heel. And for boots, you always want to measure the height because people want to know how high up the leg it's going to go. So those are pretty much the basic measurements.
Yeah, that's a good question because it's really good to do measurements on everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
I just a side note here, I've been buying some clothes on eBay for this wedding we're going to, and I cannot tell you how many sellers, just amateur sellers, have no measurements for dresses, for shoes, for men's jackets. And I always have to message them. If I like the item, I'm like, I really want to message them. And it's a pain in the butt.
Right.
So don't be one of those sellers, please.
And we're buying this stuff for cheap. So they could probably get more if they had presented it better.
Yes.
Okay, Angela asked, she's from Australia, and she says, can I send you a picture of a vintage
Chanel handbag that was my mom's, and can you tell me what you think it's worth?
So I only bring this up because number one is no, because we are not experts in that. But I think it's a good question because I think a lot of people, will find these like really fancy designer handbags. It could be worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there's so many fakes out there. We actually kind of avoid that kind of stuff unless we really know where it's coming from. Like if we go to an estate sale and this woman had all kinds of fancy stuff, you kind of assume that she bought it for real. But if you're just finding this stuff just at like a yard sale or like a flea market, I always assume it's fake.
Yeah.
My only answer to Angela would just be there are forums online where people talk about these like special handbags, and you can send a photo to a forum and they will help you figure it out.
The other thing too is the good thing is it belonged to your mom, so it's probably authentic if she bought it a long time ago and said it was authentic. But also what you can do is if you live near a major city, you could probably go into a shop, either a Chanel shop or whatever, and look for an expert and just be like, get an appraisal basically. Because a vintage Chanel handbag, that could be worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
if it's in good shape.
Yeah, they, some of them can be worth $10,000, $15,000, and then
which is insane. I've never found one of those.
Yeah.
I wish that I did, but you should. If it's a real, 50s, 60s Chanel handbag, you should really get that checked out. So there are people that are not us who are experts. So you should go find those people. Yeah. And I would love to know, if you do find those people, I would love to know how much your bag is worth.
Yeah. So our last question is from Sherry.
She says, I know that if you have a store open while you're away, you may lose top-rated seller.
Because you don't ship the next day, and eBay will ping you for that.
Right, which is what we're experiencing. The question I have is, could you lose your postage discount? We do not have top-rated seller status right now, right?
We do.
Oh, we do.
We're going to lose it at the end of this month.
We're going to lose it. I think that we have kept our discount through not having top-rated seller status.
So we've mentioned that in 2013 we didn't have top-rated seller status for 6 months, and we had that postage discount.
Now, I really, really need to go look this up, but I think it's because we're power sellers.
Which just means we sell a certain amount every year.
Yeah, a certain volume.
I think it's 1,000 items in a year.
And there's different levels of power sellers. I think we're silver power sellers. So I think we get the discount because of that. I am not totally sure, but when we lose our top-rated seller status, I hope to God we keep our discount.
I'm pretty sure Mikey told us the same thing. I mean, they will lose their top-rated seller status every couple months, or I don't know, or it has happened to him. But he still kept his postage discount. I don't know if because eBay knows that people kind of go in and out of the program, so they don't take everything away from you.
I think maybe we know that you lose your final value fee discount
of 20%.
Oh, 20%. So maybe some of us are just confusing that with the postage discount. I'm not sure. Maybe everyone who does eBay labels now has the postage discount. I'm not sure. I really need to check on that because I would love to know that. So
do you think that there are people who sell on eBay that do eBay labels that don't get a discount? I thought everyone got the postage discount.
I think it's changed since January. I think everyone gets the postage discount because
if you print the labels
off eBay, not like just on click and ship.
Right.
But we have an email list of some sellers that we started a while ago that is not very active, but just family and friends that we know. And there was someone on that list this week who does not sell very much, and she said she was trying to reprint a label and she couldn't because she really wanted to keep her discount. So that makes me think everyone, even low volume sellers who don't have stores, get the discount because that's who this person was. So I think you're safe. That's my answer.
Yeah.
My long answer.
All right, guys, that is it for this episode. We kind of went a little long. But
we had a lot to talk about.
I guess we were making up for being away for so long.
Yeah, so our next episode is going to be about what to do when sales are slow. So we all need to very slow like molasses in the summertime. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.